Hey everybody, welcome to another broadcast of Scared in Korea, brought to you by myself, Anaris. For those of you who have come over from Husky's channel recently, first of all, welcome. Second of all, Scared in Korea is a series that I take a more analytical approach to my own style of play. I do one versus ones inside of the South Korean server. I almost said the North Korean server. Yeah, we'll see how that ends up. And basically, I just kind of test out strategy, see how I do in general. Because as a caster, you don't always a lot of times get a chance to play, and so that's something I've been trying to work on, trying to improve my own game knowledge. Because it's one thing to actually commentate the games, talk about what the players are doing. It's another thing entirely to actually have a concept and understanding the timings and everything yourself. So that's part of what this series is me attempting to do, just improve myself as a player and kind of have you guys come along, see my mistakes, see what I do that's good, and hopefully come out a little bit wiser. So going into this match, I knew that my opponent was Protoss, and I wanted to open up with a 3-gate robo. Now, those of you who've seen previous videos, you know that's kind of more or less my favorite strategy. I really like the opener because it's able to handle the 4-gate fairly well as long as you get the timings right, and it's also able to transition well into Colossi later on in the game. Protoss versus Protoss is always all about the Colossi. By the time things are done and said and done, there's a ton of Colossi in the field. So another important thing with that is we'll touch on this a little bit later in the series or the broadcast. The importance of the extended thermal lance range and when you should get it. Now we're opening up here. You see, I've got my gas, my gateway. Everything's looking all snazzy there. Kind of, I think I pushed my gateway on the upper end of 13 supply, almost 14, but not quite there. As up here we see, okay, I've got a probe scouting out. He's on his little patrol thing. This is just kind of my. I don't really want to have to deal with this for the moment. I know where my opponent's at, and for the meantime, really the most important thing coming up here with the scout is you want to watch for two things. Number one, you need to see the timings of the second gas, if there's a first gas, because if there's two gateways, no gas, then you know what's coming right there. But the second gas and the chrono boost energy are the indicators you want to watch for to see if they're going to be doing something like a 4-gate. If he's going to be doing a 4-gate, you're going to see this not capped like it is right now. Usually, if they're going to have it capped, it's going to be by the time the cybernetic score is complete. You can spot that mine has been, about 2/3 complete right there. Warp gate technology is on the way. I've got a zealot out, pretty much just standard for me to go ahead and go zealot, stalker, sentry as kind of an overall opener there. But up with this probe, I have scouted out my opponent has used some of his energy on his Nexus, but also some of it on the Cybernetics core. I spotted the one gas there, and I'm like, okay, so we're probably going to have some kind of early pressure that's going to rely on probably Stalkers, Zealots, something like that. So I've got the probe kind of hanging out. But I look and I see, okay, well, he's still got 2 pylons. That's another thing. Myself, I know that I just placed my third, and this early, if you don't have that third pylon by now, it means one of two things. Either your opponent is just not paying attention, is supply blocked, or that third pylon is somewhere else. And of course, there's my sentry on the way. And I do decide to go ahead and throw down 2 additional gateways before my robotics facility. There, that robotics facility goes right now. The way that you kind of judge whether or not you should wait and drop that or drop it first, if you think your opponent's going to be going like a tech play, if he's going to be going to robotics facility, he drops that double gas, then you're going to be safer to drop that robotics facility probably before the third or even before the second gateway. But if you think your opponent is going to be doing something along the lines of early pressure, you're going to want to get out that gateway or 2 extra before the robotics facility so you can have that warp gate be a little bit more effective, a little bit earlier, and have some units to fend off the attacks with. So you see I've got another sentry coming down the line. Pretty much my plan, having seen what I saw, I did spot actually, let's see, I'll come down here, I saw the second gas coming in just really late. I didn't see a pylon going down. So I was still thinking to myself, this is kind of a weird build. I really wasn't sure what to make of this because the late gas timing combined with the fact that, there was no pylon. All the signs were pointing to early pressure, but we see nothing is actually coming. So having these 2 sentries, it did actually delay. Plus, you see I have the observer here first because this observer is just like, LOL, what? I haven't been attacked yet, and it's 6:46. So I decided, I think around 6 minutes or so, because 5:45, 5:50, that's about the time that you're going to see a good warp gate, a good 4-gate push come in. So, decided to drop the gas in that, delay the Colossus a little bit. I do have the Robotics Bay on the way now. I think I'm fine. You see, I'm also dropping that. Forge. I feel like I'm in a good position because I've got 2 sentries. Their energy is constantly building up. I'm gonna have enough for at least 4 force fields, possibly 5 or 6 here, as long as another attack doesn't come in a minute or so. Look at this. The Observer now spots the Immortal. Okay, so we're gonna be having Stalkers and Immortal coming down the line. I would expect to see some sort of proxy pylon because I just spotted that probe heading out as well. I know that because of the fact that he did have that extremely late gas. He's gonna not have anything like Colossi on the way. This is pretty much all the gas. This is where he's dumped it. So I think I'm in a good spot. I know that if I get a Colossus out, I'm going to be way ahead of him. I've already got the weapons one on the way. I've got 3 sentries now. I think I make a 4th one in just a moment or 2 here. But pretty much my thinking now is if I can just hold this guy down at the bottom of the ramp with force fields until I get out my Colossus, then I will be pretty much in a position to not quite get a guaranteed win. But usually the first person to have the Colossi on the field is going to be the one that takes the cake. So the Immortals are going to be the wild card. You got to watch them out. And of course down here I do decide to go ahead and bring in several extra Zealots. And unfortunately this is one blunder I made during the game. I got myself supply blocked around this point, which kind of threw me into panic mode a little bit. This point in the game is not when you want to be supply blocked. So definite faux pas. There for me. As I move out, or as my opponent moves out, rather, plenty of Stalkers, no Zealots. So none of those units to take the damage. Of course, I have plenty of Zealots here, and 4 sentries, so tons of force field energy here. And I do have a little bit of a miss micro, which causes me to lose 1 or 2 of them later on. But now, for now, we're going to see 1 force field going down. There's a block. Nothing gets up. And something that I usually do, and I didn't do this game, I don't really know why, I don't think I was just thinking properly, was I usually had the Stalkers up front, so that way they can pick off units like this. I like to let a couple units in to try to take them out, but you see this one I did not handle very well. I do leave the sentries up front, and this one is going to be taking damage, this one as well, and all my Stalkers are back here on the hold command, except for 1 or 2 of them, so I am going to lose a couple of those units, but he does have 1 sentry up there, so that's 100 gas that I really want to take out before that force field goes away. So I take it out with the Colossus and profit. That, once again, blocks him vision. And this was actually something that I do this kind of stuff from time to time. It's kind of a psychological thing. I don't know if it's bad manner or what, but it's kind of showing off. You see, I've got plenty of energy in my sentries. I got a decent bit of gas. I decided to throw down a force field to basically see, look, even after all of that, I still have enough energy to throw down a force field, even when you are not in my immediate field of vision. So it's the whole thing about that is you want your opponent to think, okay, well, if he can do that, then I'm probably not going to go ahead and get up there. I'm just going to leave, and that's exactly what he did. So I took the opportunity to expand. You can see now I do have Weapons 1 complete. So I was able to kind of tech up a little bit while I was turtled there in my base. The important thing was I really wanted to make sure that I used the terrain to my advantage because I knew that I just really wasn't comfortable without having that upper ground there. You know, I didn't quite have the Stalkers to match. I did have the Zealots, but I just needed to make sure that I had the damage output. The Zealots are crucial for taking damage. Against Stalkers and Immortal, yeah, I mean, they're decent at dealing it, but the Zealots are also fantastic at negating Immortals. I call it negating because if a couple Zealots get on an Immortal, any decent player is going to think, okay, well, I certainly don't want that kind of engagement, so he's going to run it around, and the more he's running that Immortal around, the more damage that he is not doing to your opponent. Or to his opponent, rather. So you can see now I have two Colossi here. Very nice position to be in. The opponent, whose name I cannot pronounce, he does have an observer down here, and you see he's moving into an attack position, maybe through this choke point again. I move this sentry up because I want to throw down some force fields. You see I'm just a little bit too slow. I lose it, but I do manage to get down those force fields in time. And the one thing I want to point out is he doesn't see my second Colossus here with 4 extra Zealots, the additional units warping in as well. So he doesn't quite know that attacking this is not going to be a very smart idea. The Zealots are going to be able to tank a lot of this damage, and with 2 Colossi. You can see the AoE damage is going to be had here. There's the Guardian Shield really negating a lot of that damage coming in from the Stalkers, which you can see pretty much comprises his entire army. No Zealots whatsoever, so he spends all of his time sandwiched away from my Colossi, forcing to attack the Zealots, and now you see I'm able to mop up without too much difficulty. Coming ahead out of that fight, we could just see 29 to 21, one worker even killed, and now I do have my expansion on the way, and I know that Armor 1 is just about complete. I decide to go ahead and try to hit him, because I know that there's no way that he is going to be able to have a really solid army. If he wants to stay in this game, I know he's going to have that expansion up, and I know he's going to be dumping a lot of gas into things like the Robotics Bay, possibly the Extended Thermal Lance. You could see he's behind on upgrades as well, so I try to capitalize on this advantage that I do have at this point in time. I also do have the Twilight Council. If this attack doesn't work, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some more Zealots, more Colossi, get that charge upgrade, get weapons too, and continue on. But for now, I want to see how much damage I can do here. So I head in to Colossi again. I'm fairly confident that I'm going to win this. I spot that there's only Stalkers, no upgrades, so I'm just like, yeah, alright, this is pretty much going to be it right there. Colossi do unfortunately attack that pylon for a second. Have to send them back to focus fire on the Stalkers, which I did earlier in that second engagement to great effect, and now I'm able to mop up without too much difficulty, and that is going to be pretty much that. I think he leaves in just a second here without a GG, but yeah, that is just one of the PvP games that I have played in recent times. I also have a bunch of other matchups as well that I'm going to be casting. Like I said, for those of you who are new to the series, I am actually ranked, as of this video, #1 gold in the Korea server. Korea server is a little bit more difficult. I would say actually it's a lot more difficult than some of the others. I don't really play 1v1s in North America or Europe, so I don't know what rank 1 gold translates to. But either way, I figured that playing on this server will help me out a lot, because I've noticed the biggest difference between the Korean server and like the North American server is that a lot more people on the North American server, and this isn't saying all of them, but a lot more of your average players generally tend to play to have fun. They don't do a whole lot of self-analysis. They don't do a whole lot of trying to take an active approach to learning, teach themselves, work on timings, build orders, etc. Whereas pretty much the Korean server, I've noticed that most players there play it because they really, really, really want to win. They want to improve, and so they focus a lot on learning that type of stuff. And the biggest difference between, say, a silver Korean or a gold Korean and a Master's Korean is pretty much the timings, I've noticed. Of course, this is just a generalization. It's not everybody, so don't be like, oh my god, not everybody's like that. I know that. But from my observations, the big difference is just they all kind of do the same build orders, but different timings and kind of standardized play. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I do have a nice long Protoss versus Terran that I'm going to be doing here in just a second or two. It's about 45 minutes long. A very epic game, I thought, and I'm going to do that as well. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, I'm awesome in English. All right, I'm out.